On my 26th birthday, my parents blindfolded me, told me to dress up, said they had a surprise. I believed them. They drove for over an hour, laughing, then stopped, told me to get out. I took off the blindfold, and they were gone. I was standing in front of a rotting barn. No party, no balloons, just weeds. That night, they posted a photo. A cake that said Happy Freedom Day, captioned, "Finally let Annika go." But they forgot something. I own the house they still want. And 3 weeks before this, I registered the name Barnlicht, a wellness retreat. My name, my brand, my revenge. My name is Annika Routh, and for most of my life, I believed pain was just something you had to quietly carry, especially when it came from your own family. I'm not here to play victim, but I am here to tell the truth. Because what happened that day wasn't just a cruel birthday prank. It was a message, a declaration that I didn't belong to them anymore. And that was the best thing they ever gave me. If you've ever been made to feel like the unwanted one, the burden, the family's punchline, then I'm telling this story for you. Because healing doesn't always come with closure. Sometimes it comes with legal paperwork and a name you claim back as your own. If this story hits something inside you, don't scroll away. Leave a comment below. Tell me where you're watching from, and if you've ever had to walk away from the people who should have protected you. Let's begin. I hadn't been home in 2 years, not for Christmas, not for Easter, not even when my sister Lena had her big promotion dinner last spring. And yet, 3 weeks before my 26th birthday, my mother called. Sweet-voiced, careful, like she was trying on a version of herself she'd never worn for me. "What kind of cake do you like these days, Annika? What size dress are you now?" She even joked, "No pressure, but this year, we might actually surprise you." And I let myself believe it, like an idiot. It wasn't just her. Lena texted me, "Get ready, this year will be unforgettable." Even my father, who usually had more emotion for his car than for me, said, "Be ready by 2. Dress nice. It's a surprise." They picked me up outside my flat in Nuremberg. I was wearing the pale blue dress I'd bought myself. Soft satin, square neckline. It made me feel like someone who might actually be celebrated. Mom waved from the passenger seat. Lena sat up front, not looking at me. And then, from the back seat, she passed me something silky and red. A blindfold. "Just trust us for once," Mom smiled. "It'll be worth it." The car started moving. We drove. They laughed, joked, said things like, "You'll never forget this birthday," and "You've never had anything like this before." And I laughed too, because for a few moments, I thought maybe this was their way of saying, "We see you now. We remember you belong here." I didn't know then that the dress I wore would snag on splinters, that the silk blindfold would smell like mold and hay, that the people who told me to trust them were driving me toward the one place they'd finally be honest. A place where they could say, "You were never one of us." We'd been driving for what felt like an hour. I lost track of time somewhere between the second roundabout and the third joke at my expense. Lena kept saying, "You're gonna love this," while Mom giggled like she was hiding a diamond behind her teeth. Even Dad joined in, grunting, amused, like he actually enjoyed having me blindfolded in the back seat. The car slowed. Gravel crunched under the tires. And then, silence. "Okay," Dad said. "Out." I waited for someone to guide me. Maybe Mom's hand on my elbow, or Lena's voice telling me to watch my step. But nothing. Only air. Cold. Still. I stepped out. My heels sank into loose earth. I reached for a hand that wasn't there. Then the car doors slammed. The engine revved. And I ripped the blindfold off just in time to see our family car making a U-turn. Windows down, wind sharp, their laughter echoing like a bad joke stretched too far. Mom leaned out first. "Surprise!" Then Lena. "Happy barn day, loser." And Dad, he just honked. Twice. Then they were gone. I was standing in front of a structure that looked like it hadn't seen purpose in decades. The roof sagged in the middle like a broken spine. The wood had gone soft and green with rot. There were no balloons, no lights, just weeds, rusted hinges, and a gaping door half-hinged open like a mouth that never learned to smile. I was still holding my purse strap until I realized it wasn't there. Mom had offered to hold it, so you can relax. Inside, my phone, my ID, my keys. And there I stood, in a birthday dress, lipstick cracking from the wind. Alone. The air smelled like hay and mouse droppings, the kind of scent that clung to skin long after you'd left. I took a step forward, heels clicking. Inside, the floor groaned. Something snapped. And that's when I realized this wasn't a prank. It was a decision. They hadn't just left me behind. They had delivered me to the one place they believed I truly belonged. Forgotten. I walked nearly 3 kilometers in those heels, down a gravel road that felt like it had never seen joy. The sky hung low and pale, like it couldn't decide if it wanted to rain or just watch. By the time I saw the first sign of life, a small blue truck parked near a pasture, my feet were bleeding, and my silence had thickened into something sharp. The man behind the wheel looked surprised when he saw me. 20-something. Birthday dress. Wind-tangled hair. He didn't ask questions, just offered me water and his phone. "Name's Klaus," he said. I remember that, because he was the first person that day who looked at me like I was real. I called a cab. It took over an hour. And when I finally got back to my flat in Nuremberg, the sun was gone. But something else had arrived. A post. Lena, Mom, Dad. All 3 of them, smiling next to a cake that read, "Happy Freedom Day." The caption, "Finally let Annika go. Such family fun." With hashtags. My stomach didn't drop. It didn't twist. It just stopped. That was the moment I understood. They didn't regret it. Not a single one of them thought they'd gone too far. To them, I was always the overreacting one, the sensitive one, the girl who couldn't take a joke. But this wasn't a joke. This was exile. And it wasn't just the barn. It was the years before, the silences over dinner, the way they never came to my exhibitions, the way Lena rolled her eyes whenever I spoke like I was background noise at her show. I didn't cry, didn't scream. I just sat there, shoes off, blood crusted at the back of my ankles, and opened my laptop. There was one folder I hadn't touched in months. A scanned copy of my grandmother's will. The deed to the house at Obersee. Mine. And for the first time that day, I smiled. The deed had always been there, tucked between scanned letters and old tax files. A legal PDF with my name on it, clear as frost on glass. Annika Routh. Sole inheritor of House Kuhn am Obersee. Gifted by my grandmother. Signed. Notarized. Untouchable. It was the only thing they hadn't taken from me. I hadn't been there since the funeral. Back then, the house still smelled like her. Lavender and lemon oil and the faint trace of linseed from her painting studio. Mom had begged me for it that day. We're family, Annika. What would Lena do without a summer place? I said no, but I hadn't touched it since. Now I opened a new tab, booked a train to Füssen, and 2 days later, I stood in front of that house again. Paint chipped, windows clouded, but still standing, like it had waited for me. I hired a locksmith, then a contractor, then a woman named Teresia, who used to work in trauma-informed architecture. She looked at the lake view and said, "You could turn this into something sacred." And I did. Over the next 8 weeks, I poured in everything I had. 68,400 euros, my savings, my late grandmother's fund, a small grant from a wellness initiative in Bayern. Every nail, every tile, every corner of wood I sanded by hand felt like a reclamation. We planted rosemary, refinished the floorboards, built a meditation room where the pantry used to be, and I hung one of my grandmother's sketches at the entrance, a single beam of light breaking through a barn wall. And just like that, it had a name. Barnlicht. Light from the barn. I filed for trademark that same week, registered the legal entity, and submitted the brand to the local women's retreat registry. No press, no announcement, not yet. Just the quiet flick of a match before the fire begins. Barnlicht was real now. The house had changed, not just on the outside, but in the way it held people. Women arrived in silence and left with shoulders uncurled. They cooked together, meditated, cried in small circles, sometimes without saying a word. We didn't talk about healing. We lived it. And for a moment, I thought maybe that was enough, that I could stay quiet, build my world, and let them forget me. But people like them, they don't like being excluded, not when attention or money is involved. It started with a text from Lena, short, snide, typical. "So what? You're famous now? Barnlicht? Wow. At least pick a name that isn't from a joke." Then came the email, a formal cease and desist filed by a PR firm in Stuttgart, claiming that I had stolen the name, that they had invented the Barn Day concept as a family experience, that I was exploiting it for attention. They even linked a mock-up website, complete with a copied version of my logo and fake testimonials from early guests. It would have been funny if it weren't so calculated. What they didn't know, what they never imagined, was that I had filed the trademark for Barnlicht 3 weeks before my birthday. I'd registered the brand, secured the web domain, and submitted every step of the concept: logo, visual identity, mission statement. And I had receipts, screenshots of Lena's post, the one where she mocked me publicly with a cake that read, "Happy Freedom Day." The caption, "Finally let Annika go. #barnlife, #family fun." My lawyer forwarded everything to the court. It didn't take long. The judgment came in. Their registration attempt was denied. They were fined 12,300 euros for fraudulent claim and infringement, and forced to take down all materials. No apology, just silence. And this time, I didn't cry. I didn't call. I simply stood on the porch of the house they once tried to claim, and watched another guest arrive. Her eyes were tired, her shoulders tight. But when she stepped inside Barnlicht, she exhaled, and I smiled. The second retreat weekend was fully booked. 42 women, a therapist from Hamburg, a trauma-informed yoga instructor, and a food writer who said she hadn't cooked with joy in 5 years. We lit candles by the lake, painted silence into evenings. Every room at Barnlicht felt like it could hold a different kind of pain, without flinching. And then I heard tires on gravel. I looked out the window. There they were, my parents. Lena, dressed like they were attending a networking brunch. Expensive fabrics, tense smiles. They stood by the car, waiting, not knocking, just existing. Like that was enough. I stepped outside, calm, barefoot, tea in hand. Mom was first to speak. Annika, sweetheart, can we talk? Dad followed. You've made your point, but dragging us publicly, naming this place after a prank? That's too far. Lena crossed her arms. You're literally humiliating us. I didn't raise my voice, didn't move. I just said, humiliation requires lies. I only told the truth. Mom sighed dramatically. We just want things to go back to normal. We're still family. No, I said. We're blood. That's not the same. Dad scoffed. So what now? You think you're some kind of martyr? No, I answered, steady. I just stopped pretending I was disposable. The retreat door opened behind me. Dr. Teresia Brandt stepped out. Calm, warm, resolute. She stood beside me and turned to them. This is a protected space. Guests who have caused psychological distress to residents are not permitted entry. Dad looked like he'd swallow gravel. Lena hissed, You're insane. Mom flinched, but said nothing. Security stepped forward, not aggressive, just present. I walked up to them, one by one. You left me in a barn, I said. And you laughed. To you, it was a joke. To me, it was the moment I stopped begging to be seen. You're not welcome here anymore. They stood still for a moment, waiting for something. But I turned away. Later that night, I sat with the women. No anger, no vengeance, just peace. And I said, we don't go back to the people who buried us alive. We plant gardens over the places they left us for dead. And they understood, because they'd lived it too. If this story reminded you of something buried, a silence that never got closure, a birthday that still stings, a family that made your pain their game, tell me in the comments. Where are you watching from? Have you ever walked away, not out of anger, but because it was the only way to stay whole? Your voice matters here. So does your story. And you are not alone.